So at long last, what part of the world are you in, Anthony?
I am in Queens, New York. It's Howard Beach, Queens, right outside of Manhattan. I'm a stone's throw away from JFK Airport.
Okay. I think that's kind of where I was born in Long Island. So that's where I began my life.
Yeah, that's all right here. You got it. Flushing, New York is
Wow.
right here.
And so you born, raised, reared, and stayed in that same place.
Eh. So I was born in Syosset, which is close to Long Island.
Syosset, that's where I lived on Florence Drive.
Okay, so I was born in Syosset, but then now I'm a dancer by nature here. So I'm actually a famous tap dancer who got to go to Monte Carlo, all 50 states, a couple of countries. So once I traveled a little bit, I lived in California for about 16 years. I was in San Jose, right by Willow Glen in the Silicon Valley. So it was wild. It was crazy living there in the very late 90s, and then about till like 2014.
One of my boyhood dreams was to be a tap dancer before I wanted to be a baseball player.
There you go. I got the
Is that
tap
wild?
dancing. Yeah, yeah. Different threads of the universe and
I
life.
know, parallel universes. So if people wanted to see you tap dancing, where could they see that?
So the name of the show that I really got famous in is called Tap Dogs, Tapdogs. So there'll be different clips online. I might be in a few of them, but my personal tap dance company is called Tap Life. You could find sounds of a tap life, and we did music videos and all stuff like that. So if you track me down or you go to the website taplifecompany.com, you'll kind of get into our network.
Oh, that's very cool. So you are a professional tap dancer.
That's my profession. That's my work. I've been doing that a long time, and eventually I was getting sick. I didn't know what was wrong with me, and eventually we figured out food was my issue. Food and some supplements, and that's how they kind of tie together because your body is your instrument as a dancer. If my
Hmm.
instrument is finely tuned, then I can't, continue to play it.
Let's definitely bridge the gap between performance and food and diet and
Yeah,
all that stuff. But I want to
yeah.
continue talking about tap dancing for a second.
Go
Tap
ahead.
dancing is very interesting in the sense that it's percussion with your feet, and it's also
Yeah.
a dance, and it's fluid, and it's that kind of thing. Do you also have a feeling for percussion as a drummer might? Do you have a sense of that kind of percussion?
Yeah, sure. So tap dancers are also musicians, and tap dancers go hand in hand with jazz musicians often. So yeah, as a tap dancer, you're a dancer and a musician at the same time. So percussive instruments are instruments that you strike, and since we wear shoes and we're striking the floor, we are considered percussive. Would be percussive musicians, 100%.
Have you ever seen a tap dancer who was playing drums at the same time and working their feet on the floor at the time they're playing?
Absolutely. A really great clip is if you look up Sammy Davis Jr. playing the
Uh-huh.
drums with tap dancing, and I believe Fred Astaire as well.
Wow. Sammy Davis Jr., I did see him when I was a little kid performing live in
Oh,
Vegas.
oh my goodness, that's
One of
that's
the greats.
yeah, yeah, one of the greatest of the greats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And who else was big? Gregory Hines was another great
sure,
tap dancer.
of
Who else
course.
might we know as far as names?
As far as names go, Savion
Yeah.
Glover would be another name you would know. Savion
Hmm.
Glover. And then we talk about, of course, Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, Eleanor Powell. Then some more of the modern people now, like I mentioned, Sarah Reich. And, Dean Perry and Tap Dogs was very big. The tap dancing in it is just,
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, the tap dancing in it is just, and something I was just turned on to that would be another really fun thing is to look up songs unwritten tap dance documentary about Leon Collins on YouTube.
So tap dancing, as far as an art goes and as far as dancing goes, it's kind of a frenetic energy, a very upbeat kind of energy. There's nothing mellow about this, a slow tap dance, right? It's always pretty
Well,
fast.
no, no, not necessarily. You got an old soft shoe. You
Uh-huh.
have people who tap dance barefoot. Probably the first people who created it was slaves that created, really embraced that body percussion to communicate with each other and entertain each other. Their drums were taken away because they were used. The masters were afraid they would be used to revolt and all that kind of thing. So, it's very primal. You know what I mean? Thinking about what you said, but obviously you can have a slow, percussive, very feeling um, type of rhythm with tap dancing as well.
Explain to us what the term soft shoe means, because maybe a lot of people who are watching us don't know what that is. And then what
Sure.
are tap shoes made of?
Okay. So soft shoes basically were the original shoes that people tap danced in, were, like a soft leather shoe, like a leather bottom shoe. And we say soft versus hard because now tap shoes have a hard piece of metal on the bottom. If you allow me just 2 seconds, I'll go off screen, but I'll come right back on with the tap
Oh,
shoe if you'd
yeah.
like to see it. Okay, great.
Sure, sure, sure. We're speaking with Anthony Lo Cascio, and he's a famous tap dancer, and also he's into food and diet and nutrition. And right now he's looking for his tap shoes. He's going to show you all. Okay, what do
Sure.
you got?
This is one pair. This is a little bit of an older pair.
Nice. What are those blue?
These are blue. These are my blue J. These are my blue patent leather J Sams.
Hey, show
And
us
then,
the bottom.
yeah, sure.
That's what we want to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's got metal on the heel and on the ball. Is that called the ball of the foot?
Yeah. So this would be the ball of the foot or the toe
Uh-huh.
tap. That's the
Toe
toe
tap.
tap. And that's
Uh-huh.
the heel tap. And you don't think about it as one surface, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you think about it as there's a couple of spaces there. You could hit the center, the outside, the top of the tap. You can hit the sides of the shoe. There's wood sounds as well, right? So, you could get different sounds depending on how you use the shoe, right?
Yeah.
So it's the ball tap. You could use the inside, you could use the outside, and then that's the heel tap.
The metal pieces on the bottom of the tap shoes, Anthony,
Yeah.
they are fixed in place. They're not loose like a cymbal on a drum
No,
set would be, to where you can get different sounds.
no, they are fixed in place with a tight screw. Some people actually do adjust their screws to get different tones out of the tap. Yeah, there was a when I was in Tap Dogs, there was one scene where I did adjust the taps differently. I danced on metal, so when I was dancing on the metal, I wanted to get a different sound. So I changed how I tightened my screws, not to leave them loose and jingly, but to leave a little space against the tap to the shoe. So there was a little bit more click in it
Right.
because of the surface I was dancing on.
Where's the nexus between tap dancing and the food thing that you're into as
Mm.
well? And describe to us what you're doing related to food and diet.
In dance, there's all this body image issues. And talking about what's your weight and what are you going to look like on stage. But we don't talk about why our weight changes and good nutrition a lot and how to take better care of ourselves and understand our body. So at some point in my career, I had left New York, and while I was away, started internally bleeding. Didn't know why it was going on with me. It was very obvious. It was scary and horrific. Took about 20 years for me to meet my wife, Staci, who's also the co-author in the book, and had her own issues with food and her thyroid. And we started talking about maybe one of the reasons why my body changed and what was going on with my internal bleeding, which was ultimately, odds are, undiagnosed ulcerative colitis, triggered off by what looks like soy. She said, let's try changing your diet. So at some point, and I knew I had a problem. At some point, someone said to me, you're getting too fat to teach. And that's what it was. It was you getting too fat to teach. It wasn't, hey, Aunt, do you know something might be wrong? I know you're on the road. No one maybe knows ever taught you about food. What are you eating? And it wasn't that I was even eating that bad. It's just that my food was turning against me. And I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
why at the time. So ultimately, I took out gluten and dairy. That summer, I was on a tour for the summer with my wife. I took out gluten and dairy. When I took out gluten and dairy, because I couldn't be on stage anymore, I couldn't be on screen. It was painful. I didn't look like myself. I didn't feel good. My skin was messed up. Crazy stuff was going on. I took out gluten and dairy, and the bleeding I was dealing with lessened and almost stopped at certain points. And I lost about 30 pounds.
For how long
So
of a time was that?
2 months.
That's a lot of weight loss in a short period of time. And the choice that you made to eliminate gluten and dairy, was that just kind of random? You just said, I'm going to go for it? How did you arrive at that?
So I knew that my food was was probably the issue, but I didn't understand why, and I had no one to explain it to me. Because years ago, I was in California. They passed Prop 215. If you don't know what that was, it was medical marijuana. At the time, I was taking Adderall, Effexor, and Depakote. Those are all for ADHD, bipolar kind of things, mood swings, that kind of thing. Eventually, those drugs were hurting my heart, causing me to not be able to stay awake, putting me at risk, causing me problems at work because it looked like I was lazy all of a sudden, which that's not who I am. And they passed Prop 215. Someone recommended I try this Dr. Faroche, whatever his name was. He was a French doctor who also believed in medical marijuana, and he didn't believe in prescription drugs as much. So I went to meet this guy. He said, look, here's what's really going on. This drug is your upper. This drug is your downer. This one's putting your heart through a lot of stress. This one mimics speed and amphetamines. And I was like, that's what I'm taking? He's like, yeah. Smoke a joint in the morning, smoke a joint at night, get rid of all these drugs. Let's wean you off them. Don't just, drop them off. And I want you to stop paying attention. It was the first time somebody said something like this. Stop paying attention to what you're eating. No more high fructose corn syrup. So one thing I want out, done, out. So I took that out, which also led me to start taking out things like color and stuff like that. So I was already hip on the fact that there were alternative ways to take care of myself than what was traditionally taught to me, right? Mm-hmm. So by the time I met my wife and she was already gluten-free, soy-free, corn-free, dairy-free, I was already prepared to make drastic changes that I felt were good, sustainable changes as long as I had some guidance. So she was guiding me through the process at that point. So she helped me avoid gluten and dairy for that. I said 2 months, but it was about 6 weeks, just about 2 months. And it was about 30 pounds. And and I noticed a difference within 10 days. Like I noticed a difference right away, but like within 10 days, it was a very clear difference. Within 2 weeks, other people noticed. So that was kind of the time frame. Now, when I came home from that, with my doctor who wrote the forward in the book, Dr. Rob, he's a lifelong friend of mine, was also my chiropractor. He said, wow, you look great. It's time. I'm like, it's time for what? Let's give you an EAV screening. So he gave me an nutrition response screening, and we learned I had to cut out gluten, soy, corn, dairy, fowl, spinach, watermelon. Like the list was incredible. And then I had to add in about 10 supplements. He says, listen, you're doing really good. If you can handle it and start here, drop off the other things, follow this. We're going to give you supplements. We completely stopped me from bleeding. I started adding the chicken back in. I could even eat a slice of New York pizza now without getting sick or my body freaking out because of how much I've healed.
That's interesting because pizza is a gluten dairy bomb.
Yes. Yeah. But it turns out the real biggest culprit for me personally was soy. And once soy compromised me, everything else was bad for me too.
Based on the things that it sounds like that you have eliminated from your diet, it sounds like perhaps you're close to ketovore, carnivore, very low carbohydrates.
Yeah, but I mean, let me tell you something. I bake like a son of a bitch, and I'll have sugar. It's just that instead of going to a store where I don't know where it is or getting like prepackaged, processed sweets, I'll mix my own flour, and then I'll make my own cookie dough, and I'll put all really good stuff in it, and there'll be plenty of sugar. When I'm developing recipes, we back the sugar up every time we bake until we get to that sweet spot where you don't want it to be so sweet that you don't enjoy finishing the cookie, right? Mm-hmm. You want it to be tasty with some sugar in it, so you want another cookie.
The not so sweet spot.
Right. So the cookie's delicious, not filled with so much sugar you can't enjoy it.
That's so freaky to me. I'm glad that you enjoy your cookies and so on, but it's freaky to me to hear somebody who understands a little bit about food to say that they still eat sugar freely without guilt. And that's strange because sugar's pretty much been identified as a huge super poison.
Yeah, I get it. Sugar's evil. When we do it, I usually use like raw organic sugar or maple sugar.
But that's no better.
Okay, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. But I'm also intermittent fasting, right? So I don't have a lot of excess fuel to begin with for that to really sit around for a long time and poison me. And I don't do it that often, man. If I'm gonna make cookies,
Right.
like it's an event. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like make
As
make
it
good.
should be.
Right, exactly. It's an event,
Yeah.
and everything in not everything in moderation, but I want to feel good about life, and I want to feel good about myself. And so, oh, you're denying yourself everything. I don't do that either. And mindset matters. And as long as I'm not really overdoing it or noticing, oh wow, I used a whole bag of sugar this month, which will never happen, then I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? But like you said, I have to be cognizant about it. But I don't drink any soda at all. I drink 128 ounces of water a day. I feel
Uh-huh.
like the fuel factory I set up in my body can allow for little things like that once in a while, as long as it's not a common incident.
How long ago was it that you first gave up the gluten and the dairy and you lost the 30 pounds?
Mm. So at this point, I got up to 240 pounds. That had to be 3 years ago that I stopped the gluten and the dairy.
What height?
I wasn't okay with it. Something was wrong, and we couldn't figure it out. This is why
Yeah,
I tell you, you need to be your own advocate for yourself. You need to know
right.
your body. You need to learn everything you can and do whatever best for you. You know, but no, it wasn't good. And so that was the first 30 pounds, and now I'm at like two. No, I'm at one. I said it about 178 to 182 now.
That's
So
great. That's good for you.
yes, yeah. I drink a lot of water, and I have a little filter in there that is makes it more alkaline. And I test the water
Uh-huh.
every once in a while, make sure the filter's working. It's a filter I throw in every 3 months, and it's also adds some minerals to the water.
Hey, what do you believe about alkalinity that is safe and proper?
I think an alkaline body is a healthier body. I
Hmm.
think an acidic body is an opportunity for things to go wrong or to offer in some health issues. That's one of those things that I'm not really good at remembering all the details, getting into the nuts and bolts of things. Sometimes my wife Staci is much better on that end of it. I say we're two ends of a great book because we really fit together really well.
I'm glad that you guys work so well together. So it continues. One of the things I'm noticing is that you're a very energetic guy. Did you get off of other medications that you were on previously that you discussed momentarily?
Yeah, I haven't taken any of that in a long, long time.
So
Long
where do you find this wellspring of energy?
time. I don't know. Everybody's always said that. I always thought that lots of people had inner energy, inner monologue, all these things. And then, I found out that, okay, maybe I'm the 1% makes me special. That makes someone else special or whatever it is. But I've always been an entertainer. I've been on stage a long, long time. I've had to learn how to, you know, keep that. I kind of kept that in a child in a lot of ways because being a dancer is like I'm a 52-year-old man that says I have a dance bag. How many guys have a dance bag? I know plenty of guys with a briefcase, but not a lot of guys with a dance bag. Lucky that way. I don't know. I get to keep the energy. I think the water and the food definitely helps. The not eating the gluten definitely takes away a lot of the sluggishness. So the food, the water, the lifestyle, the fasting, the training, all of it is another component that builds building blocks of energy. So I'm just energy on top energy at this point.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, we've touched on a lot of different subjects here, but we stuck with food for a great portion of the show. So I have to ask you, what have you eaten today?
What if I eat today? I made myself a salad earlier. I also, Stacy, what was I eating today? I forget. Oh, I made myself tuna fish. Put some fresh onions, red onions in there. Squeezed a lemon in there, and I ate it on my siete chips. I have siete chips, which are corn-free tortilla chips. Tonight we're making those with our own taco seasoning. So I make my own taco
Nice.
seasoning mix. I make my own flour, two different flour mixes. I make my own a beef rub mix. So when it comes to doing those things, I usually have a little something in the cabinet that I could put right on whatever I'm making.
Oh, that sounds great, Anthony. I'm going to ask you about those mixes in a minute, but is your beautiful bride Stacy camera ready at the moment? Because I'd love to see her and say hello.
Hey, Stace, can you put your face on camera for a second? I know you can't necessarily hear, but Matt would love to say hello to you. Yeah. She's looking at me like, okay, I'm all the way over.
Awesome. That's great.
Hey,
Yeah, I want to see the other side of the bookend. Hey, Stacy, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
I wanted to say aloha to you. Nice to meet you.
Oh, aloha.
Thank you for coming on. And he keeps on referring to you. So I just had to see, the better half, truly the better half.
I'm here.
Oh, good, good. Thank you for saying hi.
Yeah, no worries.
Fantastic.
She'll tell you the better half is the cat.
She's pretty awesome.
Yeah, she's
okay.
Great.
I promised I was going to ask you about your spice blends. Tell us about the spice blends that you make.
Oh, no, it's just we figured out like Staci can't have paprika. She can't. I have to be careful with cayenne. So there's some spice blends that you like to have around. So we just kind of do those things. We're working on a cookbook. That's what we say we're going to do next is make a cookbook, and all those like blends would be in there and stuff like that. I think some of the spice. I think one of the spice blends might be on our website. I'm not sure if it's still up there, but we like to share information with people. We've been cooking online for a little while. I don't like to hide recipes because it's really, if you're going to live this kind of life, it's important to have good, reliable community, a positive mindset, concentrate on what you can eat, not what you can't eat. And like all those kind of things. We kind of build all our meals from scratch because we make like 98% of our meals. But even though we build all our meals from scratch, there are, components that are ready and waiting so that it's easier to live life this way.
So are you fanatic about certain foods or certain ingredients and definitely staying away from them?
Fanatic about staying away certain things. I mean, anything that's going to make us sick.
Right.
Always moving towards what's better is always a better option than staying on what's harming you. You know what I mean?
You're doing the incremental thing, and yeah, I guess it's different than the extreme thing, right?
Well, right. So it depends on who I'm working with, because I mean, I'll coach people. So if I'm coaching someone who is afraid of the big step, then let's take some baby things here and there. They'll see a difference, and then they start to snowball that feeling into, ooh, I want to take bigger steps. But if you try to get someone to take too big of a step too soon, they'll stop before. Make choices depending on who I'm working with at the time. But I agree with you.
Hey, I'm digging your kind of like movement cam here.
Well, I realized I could bring it with me, so I said, I'll just bring him this time.
That's cool. Is that a PC or are you working with a phone?
You know what? This is my iPad.
Your iPad, okay.
I have an iPad set up like a laptop.
Oh, very cool. Okay. I can tell now. So that's very good. So you're not a fanatic on food like I am. Obviously, you're not a chef and it hasn't been your profession, but you're moving in that direction constantly, very positive.
Well, here's the deal. I am a fanatic in the way that I'm Italian, and I grew up in a kitchen, and we all learned to cook by hand, and it was never measuring anything. And I had my grandmother, my grandfather making meatballs and seafood salad and, all those kind of things. So am I a chef? No, I'm a master of tap dance. But do I love food? And do I put my love into food? And do I want to always learn?
Let me ask you about your Italian heritage.
So my ancestors come from Sicily and Napoli. And I'm American 100%, but I'm in that time frame where like my grandfather helped put the tiles up in the Holland Tunnel in New York when they first tiled the Holland Tunnel. Like he was part of the Italian workforce kind of thing.
Yep.
And I've done the whole DNA thing and found out that while I'm 3 parts Sicilian and 1 part Napolitan, the Napolitan part probably came from Sicily. So ultimately, I'm not really Italian. I'm Sicilian. So there's a whole food network and life that comes with that I'm, now that life has changed and I have more time for learning about myself and working on myself, because that's the greatest thing you'll ever work on in your life is yourself.
Oh, yeah.
I'm learning more about, where I come from and maybe getting to visit Sicily.
So what about the Italian Sunday night dinners? Is that something that's part of your day-to-day anymore?
So the whole Sunday dinner was my whole life. Eventually, when my brother and sister moved out, they got married, they had kids. I was traveling, I was touring. Monday became a thing in the house. It became Monday night dinner because Monday was an easier day to get together for everybody.
Right.
So while we don't do it all the time, we do try to do, my parents and I do try to do Monday night dinner, and I introduce them to my recipes in the way that I cook in a way that's healthier for them. So at least I know they're getting that meal every week, and we're sitting down enjoying and talking about food once a week, which is enlightening them and maybe giving them a different relationship with what they choose to put in their body.
Beautiful. The stuff that you put on top of your pasta, what do you call it? Do you call it sauce or do you call it gravy?
I now know, when I was a kid, we called it sauce. But I now know that, from what I understand, is the difference between sauce and gravy, that they both kind of exist. Sauce is just that, the tomatoes, the paste, a little bit of maybe basil, a little olive oil, a little garlic, like more like that. It could be a marinara, which is like just the chunky tomatoes, but then a gravy is going to have onions, carrots, celery, and it's going to be all blended together with like maybe an immersion. That's my immersion blender, with maybe like an immersion blender. So it's not that it's call it this or call it that. It's that they kind of both exist, but they're their own individual things. That's where I live with it now. Now,
Gotcha.
you probably know more about this than I may, but in my life, that's where I landed for the moment.
Always around the holiday times, I always seek out all my Italian friends because
Uh-huh.
they make thousands of different kinds of cookies, and that's
Yes,
something I really dig. Is that something you
yes.
do too?
My Aunt Janie used to do that. It was one of my favorite things. And since I don't work with traditional flour anymore, I'm not making all those kind of cookies. But sometimes I'll try to make a ricotta cookie, or I love a good sesame seed cookie. And the sesame seed cookies, I've been practicing them. And I don't
Hmm.
really tell people I am practicing them until after I really got them pretty good. Then I tell them I'm practicing them, and I'll let them taste it. So, but since you're like hitting on something that's like a childhood like love of mine, I'm like admitting to it. But yeah, I do practice making Italian cookies with the new ingredients that I use to manage my life.
Oh yeah, it's such a big part nowadays that people are getting so much more used to understanding that doctors know nothing about nutrition, and it's really
Uh,
up to us to do our own research. We're trying to find good recipes, good techniques, and ways to make things that are delicious and not unhealthy.
yeah, 100%, and it's challenging. A lot of people just feel like they can't make the switch. Or listen, if you think that it's easy to do this, it is. And if you think that it's hard to do this, it is. If you
Hmm.
focus on what you can't eat, that'll be the experience you have. Instead, if you make a list of the things you can eat, that'll be the experience you have. It's like anything else in life. Mindset matters, and the way that you approach something is going to be the way that you experience something.
That's right. That's right. We have to overcome in many ways sometimes the ways that we were brought up because we were brought up
Yeah,
to say, oh, to not even be aware of our food intake and that if anything ever became an ailment for you, all you'd have to do is go to the doctor and he'd have a pill for you. But that's really not
yeah,
the case, is it? Food is medicine.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's why we call the book "Food is a Prescription," because
Hmm.
it was the prescription that we needed to help ourselves. And a lot of times when people are asked to change their diet, they can't. There is nowhere for them to go fill that prescription. They feel very alone. They don't know what to do, and they're not set up for success. And that was
Hmm.
kind of like the inspiration behind why my wife and I wrote the book in the first place, was because if you're asked to do something challenging and you're left all alone to figure it out by yourself, the world's moving at a fast pace. It is hard to always be your best self and if there's no accountability and all these other things. But if you wind up on the flip side, or you figure out another path, and then that path helps you find success, then that's what you need to lean into. But you need to be introduced to it first.
Right, right, exactly. How long have you and Stacy been together?
Staci and I have been together. We've been married. Staci, we've been married for 5 years. We've been married for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then we been together for maybe like a little, maybe a year and a half before that.
So you
We're
guys are
really
fairly new.
so 4 years. So we know each other 9 years. Yeah, I don't know anything. You're asking difficult questions, but I'm getting from over here this many, that many. So we know each other 9 years.
Next time I have to get her on the show.
Yes. It's funny. Sometimes people interview us together, and then some people only interview one of us, and then like, we need to interview the other one now, and they wind up interviewing us as two separate interviews. I never know how it's going to go, but it's always a good time.
The thing is, if she's right off camera and we can hear her prompting you, she should definitely be on camera. Am I right?
Yeah, we do it to each other. We prompt each other.
So do you guys have kids?
We do not have kids. Procreation was not in wasn't our goal. Our baby is our tap dancing. Is
Oh,
our
that's nice.
you know
What about
we have a
pets?
lot of kids. We do have a pet. We have one pet. He is a foster cat. If anyone likes to support cats, you could support Meow Squad NYC.
Awesome. That sounds fantastic. I also happen to be what they call a foster failure. So that means,
Okay.
we took in a couple of kitties
Yeah.
5 years ago because we were asked to take care of them, to put a pound or two on them, because I guess my background as a chef is well known. And so, of course, we fell in love with them within the first half hour, and they've been with us for the last 5 years.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, Jacob Mao's been here for about 2 years now. I don't think we're giving him back anytime soon.
So you listen to this. We're talking food, and now we're talking pets. I cook scrambled eggs for my cats every morning, and I make them
Amazing.
chicken so they don't have to eat commercial food.
We use something called Darwin's Naturals, and
Mm-hmm.
it is raw cat food. It is
Mm-hmm.
straight up raw turkey, raw chicken, and raw beef, and he loves it. And ever since we started giving it to him, it completely changed his what big surprise is bowel movements, and he became a much healthier, happier, playful cat. So yeah, it's amazing to me. I see commercials on YouTube. No animal should eat processed food for every meal of their life. Get the fresh food, and it turns out that instead of it being humans that they're talking about dogs, and giving your dog no grain, no soy, no corn. But yet, that's not the conversation we have about humans all the time. And it blows my mind that people will sometimes overlook themselves and take better care of their pets than they do of themselves. So it's yeah.
You win the prize for today because anytime a guest of mine could fit in the words bowel movements into the show, I'm pleased as punch.
Yes. Hey, Stacy, we won. I said bowel movements on the show.
That is hilarious. So now you're talking about the raw food for the cat. Is it
Yes.
frozen?
It comes in frozen. Yes, it comes in
Okay.
frozen in individual packages. When you open them, you usually use the whole package in a day, so it's not sitting in the fridge and getting extra histamine overnight or over a long period of time. And we keep ours in an airtight container, he seems very pleased. He seems very pleased.
That's great. I love hearing that. I'm noticing that you have tattoos on your right arm. Does your lady
I do.
have tattoos as well?
Stacy has a couple of tattoos. I will say that when I do get ink, because this lifestyle isn't just about food, I have to, I talk to them about the inks they're using, not having a lot of heavy metals in them, making sure, you ask if they're organic or not. You look these things up online. You can't be perfect, but you do your best. People can lie about products, but so could corporations. They can lie about what's really in there or not. But I do check these things.
Corporations can lie? Oh my
Yeah, I've heard
gosh.
this. I've heard this. I heard it's standard in some things, but I talk to my doctor about my tattoos. I take extra supplements to help remove iron, heavy metals, and I double check there's no soy in the inks that we use. So I'm
Right.
not sure where you're going with that, but I'm interested to know what you were going to ask me about my tattoos.
I've been asking guests lately about what their thoughts are on tattoos because I've
Oh,
noticed them with a few guests. And so we were talking about that. We're also talking about baseball players and some athletes. They have tattoos. Some put them on their neck or their face. And, if it's appropriate or not, and does it make a difference in the work world? And so it's just become a topic of conversation lately.
yeah, it's a great topic of conversation. Actually, mine are all very meaningful. They all have some sort of connection to my life. I didn't get my first tattoo until I was 40. Like my 40th birthday, I think, is when I got my first tattoo. Now I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight in total. I do them in a way where if I'm wearing a suit or if I'm dressed, in some proper attire kind of spot, you wouldn't see any of them. I do think that it will definitely affect your work, whether it has to do with an opinion of you or not is irrelevant. It has to do with the opinion of society and their comfort level and things like that. So you just need to be aware. I would never tell anybody not to do something that they wanted to do for themselves, even if it wasn't, something that I would do for myself. But just know that it is going to affect what you can or can't do. And if
That's
you're an
right.
artist, and it's meaningful and it's important to you, of course, do whatever your heart and soul needs, but just understand the I don't want to say consequences because that says the repercussions or the reality of the choices you make. So just understand that you that's what the facts are right now.
Absolutely. It does affect the workplace. Of the 8 tattoos that you had, how many of them were you drunk or high?
None,
No
none.
kidding.
They were all very well thought out, and I did not rush any of them. The one on my back was my barcode because I felt like I became a little bit more illuminated in life at some point, and I'm more aware of my own third eye and pineal gland and that kind of thing. And I wanted a barcode on my back, so my barcode was going to be my job, which is 5678 because I'm a dance teacher, and my
Hmm.
birth date 5/12/72. So I was going to get a barcode, but I started talking to this person about pyramids and all seeing eyes and what it all meant and illumination. And so she created this really cool pyramid with eyelashes that were the numbers instead of just a straight barcode. And that became my first tattoo. Then my next one was 1111, which is numerology. 1111 to me has to do with your soul and your spirituality speaking to each other and making you aware of things at the moment. So it reminds me of that. On my other arm, I have never with ill intentions because I understand I'm a New Yorker. Sometimes I come across harsh. I'm limited vocabulary sometimes. So if something sounds aggressive or or it sounds like I'm being negative, let's talk about it, ask questions. It's never really with ill intentions. Maybe I was being too short. Let's work it out. We don't do sorry here. Means that the word sorry is a very meaningful word. I think we throw it around too easy now. So if people say sorry to everything, I say we don't do sorry here. Especially my dance students, they were saying sorry when they were doing a step wrong. I'm like, no, this is a learning experience. This isn't a time to be sorry. This is a time to learn. So I wanted to redefine the word in my universe, so it kind of lives there. Perception is infinite. I feel like if there's an infinite amount of people, or 8 billion at the time, or an infinite amount of stars, there's an infinite amount of perceived ways of perception of things. So we need to be open and understanding and patient that way. This is the show I was in, Tap Dogs, and I'm the 34th person out of 87 people to ever do the show. I'm the first American to do the show, stepped in for an original cast member by the name of Drew Kaluski. He's in the movie Bootmen. You see the movie Bootmen, you'll get an idea of that whole deal. And then this one is Taplife Company. It is my tap dance company, and my Taplife Hero Foundation is our 501c3 on our nonprofit. And the very last tattoo that I got is, and most of all, calm, because I'm in this academy called the Warrior Academy, and I took a 120-day challenge. And in that academy, we read ourselves this warrior mantra every day. And I have a terrible memory, so I have to write it down. And I wanted to take the whole thing with me. So let's see if I have it here. I wanted to take the whole thing with me some way. So I created this tattoo that I could take with me. And the mantra is, a warrior is kind, caring, loving, compassionate, and most of all, calm. But at any point can act to protect their family and what they believe in. A warrior is not a man or a woman. It is a spirit that we all embody. Warriors rise.
Mm-hmm. Nice,
There's a,
nice quote.
that's a, that's a tattoo tour.
Good words to live by. When you were talking about the one tattoo about perception on
Yeah.
your arm, what's the connection between perception and reality?
Well, that's the idea. Everybody's reality is what they're perceiving at the time. And
Hmm.
sometimes, and this is how misunderstandings happen. And it's easy to happen. This is why I talk to, again, I got to say, Staci, I'm going to call it, shout out my wife. I love to make up new words and to and enjoy life in a way that seems very free and safe and living in the moment. And one of the things you're talking about right now is spinking, is speaking and thinking at the same time. You have to spink through life, and if you spink through life, you'll experience life in that very unusual way. And if you want to understand different perceptions of things and what someone's own truth or own reality is, you have to spink through it, and you have to allow yourself the opportunity to understand things from an empathetic point of view or from other people's perception, and that's their reality, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I
I
want to
haven't
understand.
heard that word. You kids and all your new words.
Yeah, you know, it is what it is. My wife embodies that. She quotes that. For me, it was that the word was being thrown around so often, the more or the deeper meaning of it has been lost, right? When I was younger, sorry was, oh my God, I didn't realize what I did. I feel terrible. I never want to do that again. I'm really sorry. And you didn't use the word very often. But as I got
Mm.
older, I heard it used often, even to the point of just, oh, you bump into somebody, sorry, and you turn back around. It became a throwaway word. And because it was used more often as a throwaway word than as a deep rooted, meaningful word, I felt like it lost the value it used to have. So,
Have you ever
yeah.
traveled to the United Kingdom?
Have I ever traveled to the United Kingdom? Funny story. I have a lot of funny stories. I did travel to the United Kingdom, but I didn't make it in. But I kind of like was held in captivity for 16 hours. I didn't do anything crazy illegal. It's not like I brought drugs with me or like caught smuggling something. Just some paperwork wasn't understood right or whatever. So I've been to the UK, but only into the security room in the airport at Heathrow, and then turned right back around and came back to America.
Now, that sounds like a very fun story. I'd love to hear that one.
Sure, sure.
So
We're not going to tell it right now, though.
Oh, you're not going to tell it? Okay.
No, we won't tell it right now.
Well, the reason I asked that question is because you were talking about sorry and its connotation and its usage here. But in Europe, especially United Kingdom, sorry is used all the time, every time, in all different situations. So I didn't know if you had been there, and if so, you would have heard that word.
Yes, I'm sure. And I know the Canadians use it a lot. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, mate. Yeah. There's a bit of that. I hear a bit of sorry, mate, all the time. You know, my Australian friends said the same thing. Yeah, familiar.
The next time we get together, Anthony, for sure, we have to hear the United Kingdom story and you being able to get as far as security over there, and that's it.
Yeah. I will be happy to share that story with you in the future.
So what's the website where people get a hold of you, take a look at your book, watch some of your performances and all that?
So if you'd like to check out the book, you could go right to Amazon and search Food as a Prescription. It's also the name of the website, foodasaprescription.com. Simple, straightforward, straight up. As far as dance goes, you can look at taplifecompany.com. And if you want to know about our tap dance network and about our 501c3, you could also go to YouTube. If you want to see us tap dance, go to YouTube, look up Tap Life, Tap Dance, Tap Company, and search it. You could look up Tap Life Hero Foundation. You'll find our page. We've also put other events online. You could see some of our music videos. The Tap Life Eyes music video is an award-winning video we produced with Frank Persico. He's a very good friend of mine. He's another New Yorker. He went to the High School Performing Arts. He's got some great songs. With him, we did a music video also called Lucky to Be Alive. That's another music video we filmed on Rockaway Beach in Queens, New York. So any of those keywords or searches, you'll find the food and you'll find the tap dancing. You're always welcome to reach out to us. We love to talk to people that are in the network.
Is Staci also a pretty expert dancer like yourself?
Staci's a phenomenal dancer. She's even better than I am. She has a wealth of knowledge. I'm a tap expert. She is tap, jazz, acro. She's very familiar with ballet and extending her education on that. She was part of Sesame Street Live. So she has quite a performance career as well. And she's performed with our company. She is the company manager for Taplife Company, and she's a fantastic dancer.
Thank you so much for joining me today on 50 Tastes of Grey. Next time, maybe we'll get both you and Staci together. We can do the three of us. We'll have a fun time.
Sure, that'd be lovely. I'm sure she'd love to be on the show and have a conversation.
Were there any questions I didn't ask you that people might be interested to know about?
No, I think we did a really great job, and I appreciate you having us, and I appreciate people who host podcasts because I think it's a really great way to get information out, to learn about all different things, and I love this form of media, and it's controlled by the people. So it's people finding people doing things that other people like and enjoy, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I'll say thanks again, my friend. I'm going to say aloha to you for right now, and hopefully again we'll be in touch.
Aloha. Be well.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Same here. It was really nice meeting. I'm glad we were able to pull it together.
Yeah, I knew we would. Once I saw your email, I was like, oh, this guy ain't playing around. And he's got a good podcast. So, yeah, thank you.
Right. You bet, buddy. We'll talk
Cool.
soon.
Okay.
Take
Take care.
care.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.